Hello, and welcome to another video. This one's more of an official review of Fallout 76 now that I've played it, I've experienced it, what I feel. One thing I don't like is all the updates, but that comes with the territory of a online game, I suppose. Because I've got such horrible internet, it's still downloading. Yeah, 1.23 gigs out of 34. I don't know why it's such a large download, but it is. So that's one thing I do have issues with. Anyway, belly's kind of big because I just finished um, eating potatoes with a little cornbread. So yeah, you'll have to excuse the fat belly. Anyway. Let's kind of get into a review of how I feel this game is. I've given an observational review just on observing it played and what I think how it looks and stuff. Which, don't get me wrong, I love the graphics. I love the gameplay. It looks fantastic. You know, it's by far the best looking Fallout game. Best looking. Best playing? Well, there's other issues. We'll get to that. But it is one of the better looking Fallout games. So let's start out with the graphics. You have the Fallout 4 version of the engine, but added with some new capabilities, the way it renders light and so on, bringing in a lot of mist, which living in Appalachia, not far from West Virginia, yeah, you can get mornings where all you see is fog 5 feet in front of you. You won't see the rest of the mountains unless they stick up over the fog. Literally, it can be really thick. And I've went through on some days in like the early mornings, and yeah, it's very true to the Appalachians. You can get some mornings that are so thick with fog, you'll not see through it. Um, let's see what else. I think, like I said, the graphics look beautiful, gorgeous. So, you know, like I said, probably the best graphics used for a Fallout game in the canonical series. 1 and 2, it's pretty much based on the times. And because of course it was what, 25 years ago or so. 97. Whatever. It's been a while. 3 in New Vegas. Yeah, I know it's the same engine as Fallout 4, but I hated that that version of this particular graphics engine. It looked horrible. Everything was gray, muddied. Yeah. The current generation, 4 and 76, the best graphics by and far. And 76 is even better with the way they've managed to render things. So, graphics, I'm there's nothing I'm really going to hate on as far as the look. Um so yeah, I mean it looks fantastic as far as graphically. Some people there are some glitches that affect graphics. We'll say that. We've talked about some good things with graphics. Now let's talk about some negatives on the graphics. There is a particular glitch I've seen, which I don't know if they fixed, but when some people get out of their power armor, it stretches their character's frame. I don't even know if it requires power armor, but I don't know if they fixed it in any of the patches or not. But yeah, that that can kind of throw you out of the game. Some of the gameplay, like when you're walking along and you see your enemies just go float. They don't walk, they don't run. They just float over the air. It's like, really? You see that super mutant just do 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 do. It just floats over the land. Again, I understand part of it is the rendering of the server connecting with other people's connections. So it isn't so much graphics, but you need to do something, Bethesda. You need to do something in that regards. Now, sound, specifically soundtrack. Probably one of the better soundtracks they've had as well. I love all the songs. They match up beautifully with the atmosphere of the game and the fact, that this, well, you know, West Virginia and most of the other south and central regions of Appalachia have huge coal mining populations. And so the fact that there's such a focus on that, wonderfully done. The added songs are great. I love the additions. They really add to the um, game. You know, it's one of the more diverse soundtracks they've had. It's probably only equaled by New Vegas because New Vegas is so different from 3 and 4. Um, it has a totally different feel based on the Vegas scene. And, that very desert area. This has a very mountain scene, and so it's very fitting, dealing a lot with coal and everything. So again, I've got to give the songs props. Soundtrack, it's up there. It's a great soundtrack. Negative on the soundtrack, it's more of a programming issue with Bethesda. I don't know why they did this, but they tied the world's radios with the overall game sound. So you can turn down radio, but it only affects yours. And so you've got anybody that streams or shows videos of Fallout 76, so they don't get copyrighted, have to turn off the radio and they have to talk over it. I'm trying not to use the song as a benefit. Give me a moment so I can turn this off. La 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 la. That's kind of my point. So Bethesda, you need to take that into a little bit of consideration. I don't know the exact reason you did it like that, but um, the Fallout series has a lot of fans, and we like to stream it. We don't want to have to be copyright claimed or strike just because there are songs in there. I mean, we love the series. Some of us do. I'll admit it. I've got a bit of a bias. I love Fallout. But yeah, again, it's not really anything wrong with the soundtrack. It's just more programming of the way Bethesda programmed it in there. So far, the negatives have been programming, which gets to be a bit of an issue. We'll get to that because I'm trying to do a fair and honest criticism of the game. So instead of everybody's just jumping on and hating, but we'll get to that. So yeah, graphics, musically, it's a it's a great it's great in that respect. Um, Now what else should we go into here? Personally, I like it because it does explore Appalachia, West Virginia, uh, which is you know, it's not a region you would think of when they put into games. Usually it's something like New York or California or, Oregon or, if you like Life is Strange. So there's a number of places, but usually the Appalachians don't get given enough credit. So I'll applaud you for that, Bethesda. I'm personally a little happy that you gave the region a bit of a light. Um, well done. Because the other games are Southern California, Northern California, Washington, D.C., Las Vegas, Boston. So, again, it's nice to see a smaller, less uh, urban area given some attention. Um, Now, the world. The world is pretty big. It's in general, they said the map is like what 4 times larger than Fallout 4's, so it's the largest map by far. However, um, I know you try to put in boundaries, and that's a way to kind of do it. But on the uh, western side of the map, you can't go past the large river. So that's kind of where you're bordered in, even though it shows all this land on the other side. Again, I understand. Um, I haven't really went to the eastern side. Let's see, yeah, eastern side, because I haven't got that far. I've yet to complete the game because I've done a lot of restarts, a lot of messing around with the forest, the ash heap. What is it? The toxic valley, and just tipping into the savage divide. So I haven't really hit the eastern portion yet. But looking on the western portion, you can't really go past the large river. Um, you can only go so far north. So even though the map is larger, there's still a big portion that seems kind of cut off. Maybe it will involve DLC, or perhaps it's just a way to enforce boundaries. Unpositive, unsure, but it is what it is. Still, it's a large world. I appreciate it. And it does feel varied because you have the different biomes: the forest, the savage divide, the toxic valley, the ash heap, the cranberry bog, and the mire. So you've really given it some diversity in its actual biomes. And I appreciate that. Fallout New Vegas was kind of the same way. Even though the map showed it was bigger, there was pretty much a portion on each side that kept you walled in. Because if you've looked at the map, once you listed all the places, if you use the perk to give you all the places listed, sorry, I was just looking at the download. If you use the perk to show you all the places listed, you notice you're kind of walled in on the side. So again, it's not a major issue. Just throwing it out there. At least it's a little. It's better. Um, the thing about 76 is you have walls you can't just climb. You have to search for openings. So you can't just go wherever you want, but it's not shut off in the way Fallout 3 is in places. They've got rubble in the capital wasteland where you can't go through or really around, so you have to find another way through to get to a place. Here, they're not really shut off. It's just you got to work till you find a scalable point. So again, pretty good. Excuse me. Because some of the mountains of Appalachia are very sheer and steep, while others are very sloped. So it's a good job. And I know I've heard a lot of people complain about the lack of places to really place your camp, but that's just the way it's going to be in Appalachia. You're not going to have big, flat, wide open spots. I've never seen a road straighter than a couple 100 feet. You got curves and everything, ups and downs, and so yeah, it's not just a flat land you can build in. Anyway, so again, I'll give Bethesda the congratulations and appreciation they deserve on that. Now, let's talk about the gameplay a bit. It feels a bit uneven at points. You can hit enemies that have high uh, damage, high levels, and you can hit low levels. If you face enemies at your own level, it's pretty easy to beat them. Um, but if you're a low level and you first walk into one of these levels or one of these regions where they've got the high level enemies, yeah, they can cream you pretty quick. You'll get overwhelmed. Um, but if you face the enemies on your progressive level, it's not that difficult. And again, I understand the need. You don't want to make it overly difficult. You want to make it capable for multiplayer. But again, there are people who enjoy single player. Like a lot of the times, I'll just roam through the wasteland by myself, finishing missions. You've also got to make it possible for single player, which I do. Although it was a bit tricky of you to set Lone Wanderer to 2 whole spots of charisma instead of 1. You're really trying to push that multiplayer. Some of us, though, just enjoy the single player setup. So I enjoy playing it by myself. Something like the Queen, I might enjoy having multiple people with me to take down such a monster, but yeah. The majority of the time I play on my own. I guess it's just part of who I am because I've grown up pretty much playing single player with the age of Atari and Nintendo. So there was a lot of single player games. It's just the way it was. Anyway, um, what else about? Oh yeah, but like I said, sometimes you can get swarms, and they can overwhelm you if you are in a place that's a little higher than the game kind of expects you to be at. If you leave Vault 76 and head straight to White Springs Golf Club, there's a few like charred ghouls in there that will just curb stop you. So, yeah, it's not. Um, there's definitely a progression they want you to follow. You're free to go as you wish, to do what you want. Doesn't mean you won't encounter some steep resistance. So, they kind of leave certain pathways for you to go through. So, through the vault, Morgantown, yada yada yada. Morgantown's, let's see, Vault, Flatwood, Sutton, Morgantown. And from Morgantown, you can go northward into the Toxic Valley, or you can split and head down to Charleston in the Ash Heap. You can go either way. So, those are your options, more or less. Um, so, like I said, you can go either way. You'll have those options. But yeah, if you try to go somewhere straight off, that's meant for a little later in the game. There's a chance you're going to get overwhelmed. You might be pretty good and you can survive it, no problem. Then by all means, do so. Um, if you want to do so at low levels, do so. Because you're free to do so. Although the game kind of expects you to follow a certain route. So, but again, it allows for a multiplayer and a single player aspect in its gameplay, which I think is beautiful. Bethesda, again, good job on not just forcing the player to have to be in a party, or alternatively, to play alone. You can do either. Now, what else can we talk about in respect to the gameplay? Um, gameplay. We'll mention some negatives here. And perhaps it's my connection or perhaps it's the game, but you'll get these lag spikes where you'll be moving along and all of a sudden it's just as if the world freezes for a moment. And they're not just judders or anything like that. They're actual lag spikes that you drop what was going on. You know, for a literal 20, 30, 40, 50 seconds, you're just frozen in the middle. It's not that your enemies are there either, but or at least not in my experience. Um, but yeah, those lag spikes are a bit of a severe problem. And again, Bethesda, I just ask on your end, do what you can to improve the server and the gameplay. Now, what else can we mention with gameplay? I know a lot of people have had severe glitches, but so far mine have been minuscule. Um, I've had lag spikes. What I have had though, I've had lag spikes, I've had disconnects, I've had the game crash. Those are the three most common for me. I haven't really had anything else. Um, and hopefully, Bethesda can fix that with server stability and upgrades. So again, I ask you, Bethesda, keep working on it. Um, but yeah, those are the three major issues I tend to have. I haven't really ran into that many other severe bugs. Like I said, there's been other minor things like while the super mutant is reloading its gun, it just floats across the road. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Uh, so, yeah. Um, what else? Let's talk about story. The story is kind of hollow. I understand it's there to allow um, a multiplayer exploration of the world, but the story is kind of hollow. You follow your overseer, and you're listening to what they've done, what they've said, and you try to help out along the way with other quests. Now, that being said, while the story is quite thin and hollow, the lore there's plenty of lore, a lot of lore and backstory. Like I said, the actual events themselves, the story itself, a bit thin, a bit hollow, but there's a lot of lore, a lot of, world building through um, the holotapes, the notes, um, what else? Computer terminals and everything, so even skeleton placements. So there's a lot of world building, a lot of lore um, that gives you an idea of what's going on, of what happened. So yeah, that the lore is beautiful. It's wonderful. The story is a bit thin, though. Like I said, it's kind of paper thin, but mm, it allows for a multi-world excursion, or not multi-world, multiplayer excursion to explore the world. So, Um, that's just kind of my feelings, how I see things. Story, a bit thin. The lore, pretty good. Pretty good. There's a lot of lore and world building to examine, but the actual story itself is, yeah, it's like tissue paper or like rolling papers. So, bit thin. Again, I know it's to allow multiplayer excursions throughout the world just to explore everything that's possible, but yeah, it's a bit of a thin one. Um, Now, what else? Um, oh yeah, the updates. As I've said, I'm currently downloading an update. 1.525 gigabytes out of 34. I don't know why it's such a large one on this end. I've seen no sign that it's supposed to be that large. I've even looked it up, and it's like there's no mention of why it's so gigantic. So, um, again, I understand there's going to be multiple updates, multiple downloads whenever you have an online game like this. But for those of us with weak connections, why? Why are they so big? And if it wasn't supposed to be this big, then why am I getting this? Uh, Perhaps it's just something to do with the console, which I played on console, not PC. It's more of the everyday man's gaming system rather than the one percenters that are the PC. Because honestly, that's how I kind of see it. 99 percenters are your console players, one percenters are your PC players. I know a lot of you may disagree, but that's just how it's felt to me because I was in my late teens before our family could even afford a family PC, and it was still about $1,000. So yeah, PC gaming just wasn't a thing. I despise keyboard and mouse. Much happier with controllers. That's just why I'm a console player. I've stayed that way. Even when I found out you could use controllers in my early 20s, I'm still no. I'm a console player. It's just what I've been comfortable with, what I've always done. But that's enough of that rant. Um, that's a bit of a side rant. So, anyway, what else should we talk about? Uh, Advertising. This time, I have to say, yeah, Bethesda, you screwed it up. You screwed it up. I mean, yeah, a lot of people were excited. A multiplayer Fallout game. They couldn't wait. but you screwed it up with the whole canvas bag situation with, what is it, the Nuka-Cola Dark, which that's kind of a minor thing. A lot of people expected it to be the Nuka-Cola bottle that says Nuka-Cola Dark, but it turns out it's just a plastic cover. Bit of unclear advertisement. I wouldn't say it's necessarily false, but um, canvas bags though, when you were just giving out those thin nylon things, yeah, Bethesda, you screwed that up. The Atomic Shop, when you tried to apologize and only gave some players 500 Atom points in the Atomic Shop, that's a screw up too, because you know how much you're charging in the Atom Shop. In the Atom Shop, the fact that you have things on sale that weren't even in there before. Yeah. You know that's a screw up, Bethesda. Be honest with yourselves. You know it's a screw up. I just have to be factual with you on that. That's just, there's very little positive I can say for you. Um, so yeah, Bethesda kind of screwed the pooch on the advertising. Um, and the fact that okay, let's talk about this next part. When the game was first released, it was in a sorry, glitchy state. It feels like they did very little in the actual beta. They allowed some people to play it, and they did very little to actually improve it until it got into the game as they started making the updates. Now, that being said, in the over a month and a half since they've released the game, it's in a better state, and it's constantly getting improved and updated. So I shall give them at least that credit and acknowledgement. It's still in a bad, glitchy state in some regards. And it was perhaps a bit unfinished. It's as if you just basically released it in alpha state. And there you go. And are now trying to do things to fix it. But at least you are working to fix it. And it does feel better. So it's a better game than it was. A little more, it's more stable, it's more enjoyable, and you are constantly improving on it. So I give you, I say bravo, congratulations on that. That's well deserved. But you shouldn't have released it in the state you did release it in. I grew up, like I said, in the age of Atari and Nintendo. Glitches were a feature and not a bug. You expected issues or these little visual issues and stuff because there was little that you could do. It was early in gaming history. Um, there were going to be visual bugs. There were going to be all kinds of things. But they were games, though, that you could still play and you could still enjoy, regardless. Here's the issue, though. We live in an age now that it should be released in a better condition. You can have testers, you can have all kinds of things to look over the game. And you just, again, you just kind of screwed that up, Bethesda. So, um, let's see, what else do we want to talk about? The world, as far as the population. There are no living people NPCs. Some people see that as a bad thing. I see it as a good part of the lore, the feeling. It truly feels as lonesome and as dark as Fallout 1 to me, with this lack of people. Fallout, especially Fallout 4, 3 to a point, but especially Fallout 4, you had so many people, so many humans that you could talk to and stuff. It's just, it's nice to get your missions and stuff that way. It's okay. It's usage, but there's nothing wrong with having a world racked with such devastation. And you got to remember, this is set 25 years after the bombs, even though West Virginia wasn't directly hit. But it was set 25 years. I love the fact that there's no one there, even though it technically wasn't. Well, it kind of was and wasn't. Because the Scorched Beasts are kind of a mix of radiation as well as ultrasight, so giving away a little bit of the story there, but um, yeah, I enjoy that kind of dead world, and it feels like it should fit in the Fallout game. Perfect. It fits in the Fallout universe wonderfully. A lot of people don't like it. I do. I think it's wonderful. Besides, you can still there's it's not like there isn't NPCs in the game. They're just not human. You have Rose as the Mrs. Nanny. You have Graham, the super mutant vendor. The robots that you usually have as the railroad station vendors. So it's not that there isn't NPCs, there's just no human NPCs. And I think a lot of people make an overreaction on that. It doesn't bother me, it makes it feel a little more, the world feel a little more dead and fitting for a Fallout. And gives it a bit of a darker feel. So for me, that's fine. It feels wonderful. Um, let's see. What else? What else should we talk about? I'm trying to think of anything else that should be mentioned. Oh, a lot of people haven't mentioned it. There's some people that supposedly getting banned for reasons they disagree with, like they have an actual what is it, cheat engine or whatever running, even though they're not necessarily using it for the game. But I have to applaud Bethesda for trying to limit cheaters and griefers. You want a fair and enjoyable multiplayer game if you're going to have one. And that often means remove the cheaters and the griefers. And for that, I have to applaud you, Bethesda. I'll give you props on that. Um, so yeah, a lot of people complain about it, but I kind of enjoy it. I think it's well worth it. As someone who's never really played much with mods, there's a lot of people who complain, "Oh, you can't do mods." Wah." Eh, like I said, I play console, never really played much with mods, don't really care. So it doesn't bother me. Um, let's see. Anything else we want to mention? I think for the most part, that's the majority of the game I kind of can think of and want to talk about. But overall, if you enjoy Fallout, it's worth a play. Especially now it's at a lower price. I got it when it did that first drop on that Black Friday. So it dropped from $60 to 40. So I got it then. Um, let's see. But yeah, that's if you want to play it, don't fear the reviews too much because a lot of people whine when they want to whine. Some of it's legit. There are some legit issues, some legit bugs and downturns that yes, Bethesda needs to be shamed for. But then there's other stuff that is like you're just whining to whine. So, um, so I think it's well worth grabbing at this point where it's at a lower price, and especially since they are updating it and adding new material. So, if you want to grab it, you want to play it, by all means, it's probably best to do so now since it's at a decent price and they are actually updating it and everything. Only thing I have to say is, but and I'm saying this to you, to Bethesda, don't drop the ball anymore on this game. Keep updating it, making it better, providing stability and constant updates because it helps the game. and it will continue to draw people in if you do this. And on the actual next Fallout game, don't screw up as badly when you release it. Take time to look for bugs, to test it. And I'd recommend putting it on a new engine, honestly. Because I know you own this engine, but it's got so many negatives to it at this point that, yeah, build a new engine. Okay. But I think that's going to be it. Like I said, buy it, play it. It's now at a decent price. Still Fallout games, still alright if you love the Fallout universe. And they are constantly improving it and updating it. So now it's at a playable state. Um, so yeah. Anyway, as always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. It will help you. And even though some of you are complete morons or knuckleheads, I'm not saying I'm not one in either. I screw up and do stupid stuff as well. I do love you all, and I will see you again next time. Later.